Okay, it's already recording. I scheduled it to do that and I didn't realize it would do it upon me entering. So we have 1 more minute. Maybe we could just do a little intro for people to share where you're from and why you're interested in doing this particular book group. So I'll introduce myself. I'm Jen Walker, and I live now in Bountiful, Utah. And I am reading this book for 2 reasons. One, we're going to convention, and James Clear is speaking there. So I'm like, what better opportunity to really get to know this book? I've already read it twice, I think, or so. And now this will be like a refresher before we go to listen to him live. And then the second reason is my daughter inspires me. It's like funny how you live with somebody and they're a little bit much, but at the same time, like she really does have some things that are pretty unique. And she's read this book and really is implementing them and, underlining the book and just working out every day and doing all these cool things. So I'm really proud of her, and she'll quote the book. So that's super fun. So who could share next? Does it let you unmute? Oh,
Yeah.
good.
Yes, I'll go. I'll just share for a minute. So I have read the book before too, but it's been a while, and some of those good habits have kind of like fallen away. So it's good for me to kind of go back over it again. And then also I've had like a busy life and a lot going on lately. So just taking an hour or 30 minutes to get back in like a healthy, positive community is just something I really need right now. So that's another reason why I decided to hop on.
Anybody's welcome to hop off and say why you're joining the group and where you're from. I'll put it in the chat.
So my name is Janelle, and I'm excited I'm from Pennsylvania, outside of Philly. I'm excited to be here and just creating these long-term habits. Sometimes I reluctantly do these because feel like sometimes I have to. So I'm ready to kind of shift my mindset into being excited about it and how to just continue. I've done a good job for a couple years now, but just continue those health habits, and then kind of those habits carrying into other parts of my life for just to be happy and healthy.
Anyone go next? Oh, Michelle, go.
I'll jump off. I don't know why my camera keeps being weird, but if I get fuzzy, I'm still here. See, it's doing it. I don't know what it's doing. Anyway, I'm Michelle, and I'm super excited. Thank you, Jen, for setting this up, because it's been a while since I've read this book, and it's fun to. I have the hard copy, and I'm also listening to Audible. So I listen to it on Audible. I'm like, oh, I got to go read that part again, and I'll highlight it, and it's awesome because I'm just excited to hear him in person at convention, and so that's going to be super fun. But I just want to dial in, like Amy was saying, like sometimes we just forget those simple little things that we're like, oh yeah, duh, why am I not doing that? So it's just a good reminder. It's good. It's awesome.
So good. Delilah, did you raise your hand? Maybe no. Okay. Does anybody else want to introduce themselves, where they're from, and why you decided to read this book with us?
Hey, I'm Mandy Jensen. I am from St. George, Utah. I decided to jump on board because I was just getting ready to read the book myself. And I was like, oh, book club, that's awesome because it'll force me a little bit to, pay a little bit more attention. I'm really good at listening to it in the background and not paying as much attention as I should. And so I was like, that will be a good reason to like really dig into it this time, because this is my second or third time through it. So I'm excited.
Awesome. And I did want to start the meeting. It started recording automatically, so I didn't say it yet. And now there's more of us on that I can say this. Let's use, if we can, that raise your hand feature as we start to share takeaways so that we can all be edified. And dang it, there was a hand raise. Oh, Kathleen, it was you, I'm pretty sure, right?
Yes, it was. So I'm Kathleen Taylor. I live in the Boise area, and I am, like, I think it was Mandy was her name. I get a lot more out of a book if I discuss it with other people and get their ideas and put it into practice and have accountability with like, oh, yes, I did that. So I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Really good. Thank you. So I don't know if we want to kind of, I don't know if everybody has a book in their hand that way, because I know some people are using Audible and doing both, which is awesome. I thought maybe we'll start with the introduction where he talks about his story and his recovery and why he wrote the book. So does anybody want to share like thoughts that you had as you read that section?
When I read that, I just like made me want to cry. I just, oh my gosh, like he went through a lot, but it was powerful. I mean, what he shared. But yeah, just I don't know, just made me emotional.
Yeah. Go ahead, Janelle.
I forgot how to unraise my hand, lower hand. There we go. Okay.
Maybe-
Oh, okay. Now I can't see anybody. Oh, there we go. Okay. You know, some of you here I haven't met before, and my son had leukemia. So when I started to read his book and knew what that meant for him as a sibling going through, like my girls were put on a shelf and didn't get what they needed for 3.5 years. And I just cannot imagine. But how I just love about him, and then the baseball story of his face getting all messed up and like what that was for the parents of going through thinking they were going to lose their child in a coma and everything. I sympathize because I've been there, not sure if my kid's going to survive. And I cannot imagine what that family has, I can't imagine what that family has been through. And there's two types of people in the world. There's the types of people that take bad and let it destroy them. This is very black and white. And there's people that take the bad of what's happened to them and they launch it into helping other people. And I love that he has taken these crazy, horrible, horrible situations and has been able to create something beautiful for people to follow and simple steps to create a life for themselves. Because like he says, we're all kind of just sleepwalking. So I thought that was pretty amazing.
Yeah. And on that note, two things that came to my mind from both of what you said, but I think your black and white version is true, but I also think that there's people who don't know another way. And, you know, I have a friend from high school and she was kind of family actually too. My sister-in-law is her sister, but we were best friends all growing up, and she was burned in high school and had to go through where they inserted like, you know, 3rd degree in the burn unit for months and months. And they had to like blow up balloons inside of her skin to stretch the skin. They had to do skin grafts. And it was a big deal. And, you know, for her, there's a lot of good things about her, but I think there's also another side that it wasn't that great. Like she did kind of go from all the pain, get addicted to drugs that way. And so, you know, for him to have come through his experience and like giving back the good, I see the pieces of her wanting to do that, my friend, but at the same time, she's been in jail like 5 times, you know, like, and so it's just incredible how there's some of those pivotal moments and people don't know what to do with it as well. So I love that this book can give hope for those who want to change their habits as well. And when Stephanie said it made her cry, already gone through, I thought about my friend and how I would sleep overnight with her on school nights and try to massage her arms and try to help her kind of get back. Yeah, that friendship is so important. So anyway, and she gave a lot to me too. Okay, so any other thoughts on the introduction? One of the things he said in that section was these improvements were minor, but they gave me a sense of control over my life. And I think that need for security, approval, and control, that control piece, when they have so little control in like a situation like that, that's so powerful. Okay, let's go into the fundamentals. So tiny changes make a big difference. So the surprising power of atomic habits. Because it just popped into my mind when I read that. I thought, oh, I should kind of set the precedence. This is going to be like so low key. Nobody has anything else more important than anybody else to say in this group. So everybody, please do feel so welcome to share if you have anything. You don't have to. I'm not going to make you, but it's like it makes it so much more rich when we all contribute. So feel free to say anything at all. And we can These will be recorded. I'll send out the playbacks, and we'll meet every Thursday except for July 4th, where we'll meet on a Friday because it's on a Thursday. And so we'll just meet consecutively until we finish the book, and we'll do one section at a time. Okay, so let's hop into any questions on that. And if you want to lead, we'll have different people leading it, and I might call upon those who marked that Google Doc, and we'll try to send up. Sometimes I'm not going to say everyone will do it like 100%, but sometimes you'll get an email with a playback, or sometimes it might be text, or it might be in the Facebook group. Okay, so the surprising power of atomic habits. What they talked about the British cycling. And so just as a refresher there, but who would like to start off this chapter? So one of the things that I was just reading is like it was 110 years that the British cyclists had ever won the event. So it had been a very long time since. And so for the changes that happened right away were really cool. Okay, Amy, I just realized you were following directions. Go. Yeah. And then Mandy.
I was just going to share, about when they talked about the plane, how like 1 or 2 degrees, like just in a off, it doesn't feel like it's that noticeable. But over time, like, or millions of miles or thousands of miles, you end up like in totally opposite places. And so it was just like an aha moment, how like you might just say, well, I'm not going to do this today, or I'm not going to do that today, or, well, this won't hurt or that won't hurt. But it's just that like one tiny shift, it adds up over time. So I don't know if that was in the same part of the book of where you were talking about like the cycling, or if that was in like the next part or not. But that's kind of like what really hit me, is like those little tiny things make a difference.
Sure. Okay, Mandy, share.
Sorry. I know for me, reading that part, it just reminded me that it's the little things that compound over time that make a difference. I'm the type of person that thinks, well, if a little is good, a lot is better. And then I burn myself out. And he's talking about like teeny tiny little shifts, just a little bit at a time. It's going to compound over time. Just do what you can. And that for me was like that good reminder of, yeah, I can change my trajectory with little tiny shifts at a time. Just slow down. Stop trying to do everything at once, because that's my style. Is just like, well, do it all, and then I burn out, and then I, struggle for a while. And so it's just slow down, take it one little piece at a time, and it's going to make a big difference.
Yeah, Dave Blanchard, he talks about that too. I've been hearing him say on some of his webinars, like millistep or something. So yeah. Okay, Michelle.
Also in that chapter, it talks about the analogy of the ice cube, and how it's in, if you put it in a cold room and it's below 32 degrees, it's not going to melt. Nothing's going to happen to it. And then 1 degree at a time, as soon as it gets to that 32 degrees, you see it start to melt. And then as it warms up. And I liken that unto kind of like us as if you're coaches, you may understand this. Like, we're trying to help our clients get into fat burn, or even if you're a client, right? Getting into fat burn, like, you got to be patient, and you got to trust the process, and you got to know that there's a science to it. And on that 4th or 5th day, they're going to get into fat burn, right? And so you got to be patient. And even in our own habits, in our own those little millimeters or little degrees or whatever, like, we have to be patient and trust the process, even in our business, in our own health goals. Like, there's going to be that point where you start to see the change, and you just got to wait for it. Like, we live in this world of instant gratification. Am I not right? And so everybody wants it right now. And we just have to know that that's not how it's going to happen. And just like Mandy was saying, like, if a little is good, then more is better, right? That's not really the case, especially when we're trying to create a lifestyle of habits, right? So we gotta trust the process, be patient, and know that right when it hits that degree, that next level, like that's when you're going to start to see the change, and it's going to be rewarding and it's going to be exciting. Like how many of you, just raise your hand, if like all of a sudden your client has a whoosh or something on the scale and they're like, oh my gosh, it's working. I'm so happy that it's finally working, right? So you just, we have to trust and be patient.
I love that. And they used a bamboo analogy. For those who aren't gonna use, who don't have like only Audible, they have this graph right here, if you can see that. And it talks about, I can't see it to like tell you, other than if I look at it. So it's got like our results right here on this side, and then the 1%ers, and either the decline goes down or the improvements. For a long time, it's gonna stay straight, and then it will shoot up. And so relevant to what we are talking about. Go ahead, Steph.
Yeah, I love that idea. And one of the quotes I wrote down said, breakthrough moments are often the result of many previous actions which build up the potential required to unleash a major change. And on that next chart where it shows like what you think should happen, we always think it's like this linear path, right? And I know sometimes in my mind, that's how life is going to go. And so I loved the breakthrough concept because, you know, when you're consistent in all these actions and these habits, like that's what's going to lead to that breakthrough moment. And just having like Michelle was saying, like trusting the process in life. Like just because you haven't had this big moment yet doesn't mean it's not going to happen. And, you know, it's just a timing thing. You're muted, Jen.
Go, Janelle. Sorry.
I was gonna say, I agree with that, Stephanie, and I like how they talk about on page 16, how habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. The same as the way for money. So like my husband and I are getting out of debt this year, medical debt, and we do a snowball effect with our debt. So like you take the money from this lowest amount that you owe, and then you snowball it into the next one, and then you start to build this momentum. But then you get to this point where you have the hump of it to get over, and you're tired, and you're running and the marathon, and you're just tired of like not spending money and not going out and not doing anything and saying no to your kids all the time. And I think about how our health is like that. Like he talked about how if you don't get to that point, I forget what he calls it, the point of plateau of latent potential. If you don't meet that time yet, that's where most people quit, because you're gonna turn that corner and then all of a sudden people see your success and they're like, you're so lucky. You're so lucky you're out of debt. Not that I'm there yet. Or you're so lucky you've lost 60 pounds. Or you're so lucky that, you know, after you've gone to school and you make some money and people quit their jobs all the time. Like but if they were just that close. And because we do have a culture of not waiting it out and instant gratification, that really does play all into, most of us quit before we even hit our stride yet. So just having that patience to see it through and create those daily changes of habits.
Yeah, I love how you said that. And I was listening to something earlier, I was talking about the vulnerability of, you know, in your sense of your example, what debts do we have? Like we all got something. We all have something that we're like, man, this is part of my life. It's a little tricky. And so I love how you shared that. That was awesome. I was thinking about on this page, I don't know, page that is page 19. It says your habits can compound for you or against you. And one of the things, like I was just like reading this one part of it, and it says the more you think of yourself as worthless, stupid, or ugly, the more you condition yourself to interpret life that way. You get trapped in a thought loop. The same is true for how you think about others. Once you fall into the habit of seeing people as angry or unjust or selfish, you see those kinds of people everywhere. And for me personally, like this, just like I've been working hard on my marriage. And this last week I was thinking about, you know, it's my fault for we're in control of our perceptions, our actions, and I always forget one of them. But anyway, with our perceptions, like that is like true. Like we have like the truth and the reality check of life. So it's not to discount the things that are not serving the family or whatever. But then there's also a way, like if it's like you always expect somebody to do something, you know, and so I love that he brought that up. And I thought about God. God doesn't do that. You know, he sees our potential. And I was relating that too to me playing pickleball. I was playing this morning and I was like, because this has stood out to me personally. And I was like thinking about more about the potential. Like, I know I've heard all this stuff, but like actually to be mindful, present, and actually doing it is so powerful. And so I was thinking when I was hitting the ball and stuff, like, what's my potential? Like, I'm gonna hit it to my potential. Because of course, like, I'm not gonna always have my potential show up for me, but I just felt like I played better because of that in those instances where I was focusing on that. So anyone else want to share?
Jen, I just wanted to say along the lines that you were saying about that on top of page 18, it talks about the 1% to better or 1% worse seems insignificant at the moment, but over the span of moments that make up a lifetime, these choices determine the difference between who you are and who you could be. Success is the product of daily habits, not once in a lifetime transformations. And at the near the bottom, it says time magnifies the margin between success and failure. It will multiply what you feed it. Good habits make time your ally. Bad habits make time your enemy. And I think after Matthew was sick and I was really struggling, I remember looking in the mirror, really sick at the woman that I was. I was sick at the mom I wasn't. I was sick at the body I had. I was sick at the wife I was. I was not present. I was just in survival mode trying to keep my son alive. And I was in therapy and all that, but I knew that there was a greater change that had to happen in me for my life to mean something again. And I had gone from having a career being a teacher and preschool daycare center and all these things to just being in survival mode for so long. And one thing that has really helped me the past couple of years, not only my physical transformation, but has been through those small habits of learning and self-growth and finding out the woman. It's not the woman I thought I would be, because that's different. I'm a different person now. I've gone through a war, but reconciling the woman that I know I am meant to be now, and having what's happened in my life propel me towards a greater mission. And I love this because sometimes we think it's that one aha moment that makes us, and it's like, we got it and we're going for it and we're going to make it and it's going to be great. And then what we don't count on is life as a journey. And there's bumps on the road, there's hiccups in the road. Things are always changing. Oops pregnancy, death in the family, like all these things that happen in life. But it's just as long as we're on the upward trend towards those good habits, that we're going to be okay. It's the overall picture of that upward trend.
Oh, powerful. So good to know. This is directly aligned with what you say, that when nothing seems to help and I go and I look at a stone cutter hammering away his rock, perhaps 100 times without as much as a crack in it. Yet at this 101st blow, it will split in two. And I know it was not that last blow that did it, but all that had gone before. Totally. Steph, go.
I don't know. I think this is kind of what Janelle was saying, but sorry, my husband called for a minute, so I missed a minute of it. But anyway, I love when he talks about like how goals restrict your happiness. And the whole point is, and this is the quote, when you fall in love with the process rather than the product, you don't have to wait to give yourself permission to be happy. And I really, really love that because I used to be really goal oriented and like accomplishment, and just getting there as fast as I could. And I've really learned that the journey, like enjoying the journey, is so much more fulfilling and enduring, and not to just chase that next goal, but to really see how the whole process unfolds, the growth and the rewards and everything. It's just that process that really, if you fall in love with it, it's pretty amazing.
Thanks for sharing stuff. Awesome. And Mandy, are you raising your hand on purpose? Okay, go. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry to piggyback that. I guess it just really reminds me that when we're focused on the endpoint, the goal rather than the journey, it's like we get there. It's like, I don't know if anybody else has done this or if it's just me, but like you plan this birthday party for your kid and you've been planning it for 2 months and you're just all the things and all the details and you've been working on it for these months. And then the day comes and then the birthday party happens and it's not near as exciting, or like people weren't near as just like, oh my gosh, this was so great. Like you've been planning it in your head to be this great event and this great big thing. And then it happens and you're almost like disappointed that it happened because you'd been building up to it all that time and your build up didn't match what actually happened. Did that make sense? And so I think when we're goal oriented, a lot of times we think we're going to be happy when, and then we get there and it's like, oh, or like when you were a kid and you were like, when I'm 16, the world is going to be different. Everything's going to be better. 16, it's such a grown up thing. And then you get there and you're like, I don't feel any different than I did yesterday. It's kind of that concept to me, that it's falling in love with the journey and the becoming and all the things leading up to that brings so much more immediate on the way joy. And then when you get to that point, it's like, okay, what's next? What joy can I find now going forward? How can I then find more joy instead of, and I think somebody else, I think it was, oh shoot, he's in a wheelchair. One of our coaches talked about that as an athlete, same thing. Like he became these things and then it happened for like 5-10 seconds, whatever it was that he was doing, and then it was over and it was like, well, now what do I do with my life? I won the gold medal, that was great, I guess, but now what, kind of a thing. And so it's like falling in love with the journey brings more long-term happiness all the way around within the journey, and then after, like, okay, what's next? I'm moving forward.
Yeah. And that gets me to thinking too, like how much of, I said security, approval, or control. How much of that, like reaching the goal, are we seeking for approval? Isn't that, I've never thought of that before, but who knows? I was thinking too about systems. It says, if you want better results, then forget about all the setting goals, focus on your systems instead. And I was thinking about parenting in the summer, and I have a couple kids that I'm trying to, like my 3 youngest, I'm trying to have them, if you want screen time, you have to, actually my other kid too, read as many minutes as you want to watch screen time. And my husband was thinking I was like freaking crazy, but he didn't say it out loud to the kids, thank goodness, because like this has been the biggest blessing forever for my kid, especially the one that is dyslexic and sucks at reading, because we're human and it's just not his strength. And he's been reading for like hours at a time. And so like finding ways to create these systems so that we're having like the system of homework time, so to speak, or reading time, and like teaching your kids at an early age to have their own type of habit. Like I have a contract. I'm like the meanest mom. It's coming out. I have a contract with my kids that they have to read God's word before the day starts for like 7 minutes, and because I want them to create that habit of putting something good in their life in the morning. And so I have like a 19-year-old and she's out of the house, and I know she doesn't do that anymore, which is fine. I said, I don't care, when you leave the house, do whatever you want, but I want you to remember that you did learn this habit in the home. And so it's just been kind of interesting, but what habit systems can we have within our parenting as well? Because it's easy to like fine tune it within the goals that we're setting, but for a lot of us, that can be one as well. Or it could be according to marriage too. Like what systems can we have to improve our marriage with how we go on date night, or how we do the house chores? I don't know. Any other thoughts from anybody? Actually, I better read this quote. You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. Y'all heard that, right? And then talking about committing to the process. And I love that he has at the end of the book, at least, he has a chapter summary. And it's like, that last quote I gave was the last one. And then if you want better results, then forget about setting goals, focus on your systems. So we kind of touched on those things. Talks about micro habits basically. And then making small changes, and that there appears to be no difference until you come through that threshold. So there's those. And then Brianna is on here. And she sent me a message, and I'll address you guys as well. But I wanted to share what she had said from what she took away from this chapter. I've been sitting today. She said, I would like to contribute. I did read the section and took notes. I loved it, particularly the analogy of the ice on the table in the room, that the temperature slowly raised 1 degree at a time, did nothing until it finally hit 32 degrees. I love that idea that you may not see results for a while, just keep making those tiny adjustment choices. And I was thinking about one of my clients who's falling into this category, which is good, but it'll be interesting to see. Here we are, week 3 or 4, and I'm excited to kind of see what's happening there. Go ahead and share. Oh, you guys all came off. I know we have just a few minutes. So, Steph, you were going to say something, and Amy, you go first.
Okay, I was just gonna say one of the things that really stood out to me was like when he talked about how your identity and how you kind of talk about yourself, like saying, I have a really bad habit of doing this, and I'm saying I'm doing it right now, but I like saying like I'm not good with money, or I'm not good with technology, or saying like I'm a person who whatever, fill in the blank. That as you repeat that over and over again, whether it be good or bad, you actually set yourself up to believe that you can or can't change. So like, I think that's just so important, such a great reminder to like, watch what you're saying. Like if you say, oh, I'm just not a morning person, or, oh, I'm just not good with money, or whatever it is that you're kind of like claiming it as your identity.
Oh, good
Just watch
boy.
that. And so I feel like that's something that was a good reminder for me to just work on, like what stories I say or what I do say, because if you say that, it's almost like you identify that as your identity. And then once you identify it as your identity, you don't really feel like you have the power to like make any changes. You're kind of like just rolling over and just saying, okay, this is what it is, versus saying I'm not good with money yet, or I'm not good with technology yet, or I'm not a morning person yet if you're trying to become one. So that was a really good reminder for me.
So good. And it reminds me of the clients who say, I'm a foodie, You mean you used to struggle, or emotional eater? Okay, Mandy, do you want to say one more thing?
I think I just left my hand up,
Okay.
but I did think that's where our RAS comes in too. And what he's talking about there is basically anytime we think something or say something like that, we're looking for the evidence. And when our brains are then looking for evidence to support that thought, and that just deepens the thought, right? And so we got to remember our RAS is a superpower either for or against us. Okay, either for or against us. And so to be really careful again with what you say, that's why it's important, I think. Anyway, the science behind it.
Yeah, thanks, Mandy. Steph or Michelle, I don't remember who else had their hand raised. Did anybody else want to say anything? And then we can close out.
I was just that was the section I was going to mention, is on identity. And I loved his story about, I think he said it was his friend that lost 100 pounds because she asked herself, what would a healthy person do? And so, I talk about that with my clients, about like making the fundamental choice to be healthy. And then once you do that, like, if you identify with being a healthy person, you're going to make different choices. And that, I love how he talked about, like, that's the more powerful way to change, is from the inside out, not the outside in. And so, what identity do I want to create? And I've certainly, had a lot of stories and a lot of limiting beliefs over the years, and things that I've really worked to overcome. But like Amy was saying, like, our words are so powerful, like what we tell ourselves about who we are, and and so just watching that.
So good. Okay. Does anyone else want to share anything before I close out? Okay, you guys are amazing, and it was so good to hear from all of you. And we'll just touch base. Feel free to share stuff into the group chat if you wanted to on Facebook Messenger, but we'll just kind of do the same rundown. Somebody else will run it next week. And I'm excited to hear how this next week goes. You guys, what you shared was powerful. Thank you so much. Bye.